Now then, it's a bit rainy outside, so I thought we'd come into the workshop and investigate this. Hang on a minute. There we go. It's a Dyson vacuum cleaner type thing, battery one. And it came my way with the instructions, which is quite useful. And it has a docking station with a power supply. So, but nothing happens. Now, I can hear a micro switch clicking, so that might be alright. We'll have to find out how we get to the battery. But first of all, I suppose we want to check whether this and the power supply is actually giving any power. So let's zoom in and do some very rough and quick assessment of what the problem could be. Okay, so this is the docking station. The power supply is plugged in. And let's assume that these, can you see that? Oh yes. Okay, so let's assume positive's in the middle. 26 volts DC, and it's quite stable, so I think that is fine. And apparently just there's an LED, and solid blue is on, flashing blue is no power, flashing amber is temporary fault, flashing red is a major fault, white is charging complete. So let's just see. So those first ones were when the trigger is pressed, so we have nothing, absolutely zero. And then when it's plugged in, which plugs in like that and down, yeah, and it's charging, which it should be solid blue, which nothing's happening. Lights off, charge complete. Well, I don't know how long this has been sat around unused, but I can't imagine that it'd be complete, charge complete. Solid amber, no charging, temporary fault. Flashing red, major fault. So we're getting nothing. So it could be that the BMS, the battery management system, is faulty in this pack. So, which would be a shame, and if that's the case, I would just keep all this lot and wait for another battery to turn up. I think I had one about a year ago, but I disassembled it and it got used in that, the cells got used in that AEG drill, which is brilliant. So, you know, it was good use of them at the time, but I could have done with them now. But maybe a common fault with these is the battery management system packing up. So we shall have to wait and see. So let's try and find out how to get to the battery. Okay. So where are we? Let's get rid of that. Make sure we're still in view. Yes, we are. So there's a bit of a red catchy thing there. So I think if you press that down, well, that just pops out. Ah, right, okay. Let's just zoom in a bit on that. Okay, you press that down and the bottom flips out, but then you can go sideways like that to remove this whole assembly somehow. There we go. You would have thought that would have come off, but that might take a bit of leverage. But I'm assuming this is the battery. So where are we? Ah, I better zoom down on that. So just down there, focus, there's a screw, and there's one on the back handle. So let's undo those screws. So it's quite a dinky crosshead screw. At least it's not a security screw, eh? The bane of our life. The other screw, I believe, is just there. Just there. Well, that's the only two screws I can see, so we'll have to see whether... Oh, there we go. Okay. There's a little switch there. Obviously. Yeah. So when that pushes in there, okay, so that switch must be depressed when the battery is inserted. So we need a couple of little bits of something. Okay, we found a few bits of metal. I think that feels like it's engaged, and that feels like it's engaged. Okay, so now then, okay, 22.4. So there's voltage there. I'll press the button down with my thumb. So we've got some DC there. Right. Tell you what we'll do now. We will try and plug that in. Like that. So that's in the charger. Okay. Can we see? Yes, we can. Interesting. Okay, so we're trying to charge. I press the button and we're getting nothing out. Okay, so there's obviously something in the circuitry that says, oh, when we're charging we can't right. So the next thing to do would be to plug that in and leave it for 10 minutes and see if the voltage goes above 22.4. So if that is, we're getting voltage out of that, does that mean that this is faulty? the motor. That trigger doesn't feel ever so good, but there might be all sorts of weird right, okay, that's interesting. Right, let's zoom down on that. So this is interesting. Okay, I'm hoping you'll be able to see this. Let's see if I can see it in the viewfinder. As I press the trigger, there you go. I was thinking there was something a bit iffy about this throttle or on-off switch, and that's exactly what it is. So that the trigger, yeah, operates that. Operates, sorry, I'll zoom out. So the trigger operates this button here. Okay, so we were pressing that and we were getting, obviously we're getting power there because we've experimented with that. So then it looks like we weren't getting power into the motor, or the motor was faulty. They look quite, those connections up there look quite filthy, so I'm just going to give those a clean off camera and we'll just see what's going on. But I think the battery unit's alright. I think it's this somewhere. It's either those connections or it's the motor itself. Yeah, and there was a lot of these filters that were quite blocked, so I'm sort of assuming that somebody's been using this with block filters and burnt the motor out, but that is an assumption, and assumptions are quite dangerous, as we found out in the past. So let's give those a clean and see what happens. Okay, they're cleaned up, and what I want to do now is to find out which is positive and which is negative on the battery, which will relate to which of these terminals, and of course that goes like that. So let's just we're charging. Press the button. Okay, so positive's this side, so therefore positive is this side. Okay, so what I want to do now is just go to the bench power supply and stick 20 volts into there, positive and negative, and see what happens. Be back in a second. Let's see what we can do. We've got the multimeter there, hopefully you can see that. I've got the motor attached, positive and negative, to the bench power supply. As we know, the bench power supply, the meter on here is, something's happening. What voltage? We've got 23 volts. That should be enough. It's modulating. It's only drawing about 200 milliamps. And what happens if I turn it up some more? Over volts. Turn it down. Sounds like some early 1960s experimental jazz. I suspect, well, I don't know, the motor controller is doing something, but it's modulating, so it could be the controller that's faulty. Very strange, because this power supply will go up to 1 amp, and it's just not drawing 1 amp. Okay, well, interesting. Hopefully you can hear that. And there is a slight draft coming out the back, but you'd expect it to run full bore, wouldn't you? I'm just seeing if there's any other safety switches or anything anywhere. I tell you what, let's just put the dust thingy on there and just see. So I'll just wind that down a minute. I can't imagine that this will have any effect. So we go like that. I'm not sure how this goes together. It came off like that, so there's obviously, there we go. Okay, you never know, let's just see. No, that's not made any difference. Anybody who knows, please comment. But at the moment it sounds like, or it looks like, we've got another set of good batteries, because they're 2.1 amp hour 18650, so it looks like we've got another set of good batteries and a Duff vacuum unit. But anybody who knows, please comment, please let me know what you think. Be interesting, won't it? You know, when I get these sort of things and you can play with them and take them apart, because actually, bottom line, it doesn't really matter, and therefore you can investigate greatly. Yeah, maybe at some point, although I suspect this is a brushless DC motor, so it won't work without a controller, so it's not as if we can dig in there and just stick some DC to some brushes, because there won't be any brushes. Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. Just a bit extra here. I've got violent with this. So, can we see the multimeter? Yes, we can, just about, without any glare. That's better. Right. So across there, virtually nothing, and there's a little micro switch here, and the wire's just come off, I think. No, it's not. There we go, 22.4. Okay, so right, and then going from that connection there to there, 3.9. That's fairly decent. And then that goes through this cell to there, that's 3.8. Okay, and that cell goes through to there, that's 3.9, and the cell comes through to here, there, that's 3.8. Then there's a jumper across to that cell which goes to there, 3.9, which then goes across to there and there, 3.9. So the voltage seems to be quite good. Now we've got an amp meter here, okay, with a couple of solid tails on the back. So I'm just going to put that amp meter directly across those connections. Okay, so this, to my mind, will test whether that battery management system is allowing current through, yeah, to the terminals. So we've got this little micro switch here, which we know switches everything on and off. Yeah, so that is the trigger switch basically. Remember that little lever that came down? That's what operates that. So when I switch this on, that amp meter should whiz round. Yeah, for a, yeah, I'm not going to hold it on very long because there's obviously a lot of current in these. So ready for the smoke and the blue smoke and the dragon and all that lot. Switch it on, nothing. So I think the actual vacuum cleaner unit itself might be alright, but this battery management system on this battery is not allowing any current through. There you go. That says it all, doesn't it? Because it should, even if the battery management system has got an overcurrent sensor, it should at least do something. What else can we put on there just to test this? I don't know. This is a 12-volt bulb. Okay. So it should go pop. Because we've got over 20 volts here. Okay. Nothing. So the battery management system on the battery is faulty. Yeah. And of course, this is a never-ending video. Just for those doubting Thomases who go, ah yeah, well, that bulb was no good. There you go. So further to that experiment with the bench power supply, hopefully you can see the multimeter. Now, across the output terminals of this battery management system we have, well, not very much, 0.6, but the inputs to the battery management system from the battery, that, let me get this right, that's 23.2. Okay, so we put again, we put these across the output terminals and press the little button. We do get 22.1. So I've worked out which is the positive terminal on this motor input, and that's the positive. So, and just remind myself, that's the positive there. So let's just try this again. So we've got these jump leads directly to the motor, and again nothing. Yeah, just confirming. And then that's the negative, that's the positive. Okay, so with the bench power supply, when this motor was modulating, it was obviously something to do with the power supply itself, the way it behaves. And we do now know from this test that this battery management system card, what have you, is duff. Yeah. So either a new battery complete or a new board. I think this is a ever recurring theme. The cells are alright, but the management board is duff. Speaking of which, my friend Dave gave me these. They are 25 volt 3 amp hour lithium ion battery packs. They're from his remote diesel pump for filling his tractors and all that sort of thing. And I suspect they may have the same trouble. They won't charge and there's no voltage coming out. So we're going to have a look at those in the next video, hopefully, just to see. Yeah, I have taken one pack apart and they've been on my resistance charging system for a couple of days, so we shall wait and see what happens there. So there you go, further tales from the workshop. And of course these videos are interwoven with the home life series that hopefully you'll be enjoying. Things out there are growing on a pace because it's well, it's the second week of June. How did we get here so quickly? Long nights? No, not that. The nights have drawn out and it's still light at 10 o'clock in the evening, which is brilliant, absolutely. But these sort of days are so short, as in, you know, they don't last very long. Halcyon days, I think they used to call them, that sort of thing. Anyway, hopefully you will catch up on the next one. I haven't a clue what it is yet, but no doubt we'll all find out. Cheers for now.